Hey guys, how's it going? Jason Sensational here, welcome back to the channel. Today we will be covering my seasonal lineup after last video where I covered the seasonal meta, or at least the meta going into the seasonals, and what I expect to see as some common lineups. I thought I'd share some thoughts about my lineup, what I expect to do well into it with, what I expect to ban, what I hope to avoid, and things like that. And then hopefully it gives you guys, whoever is going to be playing slash participating in the seasonal tournament this Saturday, a little bit of maybe guidance or information. If you guys have already playing seasonals, then but to anybody who maybe this is the first time playing in, congrats, by the way. This is a huge moment. Super proud of you guys. Hope you find this video a little bit helpful. But I don't know, let's stop rambling. Let's go into the lineup and we'll start with the first deck. So the first deck we're starting off is Yumi Pantheon. This one's a little bit of a boring one to a lot of you guys. If you guys follow me in the MR cast, we talk about how cringe Pantheon is sometimes, but I think it's a little bit too strong for what I want to be doing to cut it out of my lineup. And what I really want to be doing with my lineup is being good into control, being good into mid-range decks, and having a decent chance into Pantheon. So I am planning on leaving up Pantheon unless it's like the worst deck. But, Pantheon into Pantheon, obvious mirror, 50-50 and things like that. But into things like the mid-range decks, the faded units just outscale pretty much anything out there. You get to apply so much pressure with cards like Zenith Blade and Yumi, just being able to create just really, really big units all by itself, and then having the chance to Cataclysm your unit in for lethal. Some, I guess, changes to the deck. I have opted for 2 copies of Bastion to make my control matchup slightly better. If my opponent is like trying to vengeance my unit, having Bastion is a very great way to save it. Or just check them if they have like a Vile Feast or Mystic Shot to go with it. I have 1 copy of Camphor the Doubt. This card is less so in like a beatdown game plan, more so in a control matchup, because it just comes down with Spell Shield itself. The downside is it doesn't have Faded, but at the very least, it's a 6-mana 6/5 with Spell Shield, which makes it very annoying for any sort of control deck to actually deal with. And I didn't really like 2 copies of it, so I'm down to 1, testing it out and seeing how it goes. But I think that this deck overall is just super, super powerful in what it does as long as you draw the right cards. Saga Seer on turn 1 into like Zenith Blade and Yumi, or like something like White Flame into Zenith and Yumi. It's just very, very powerful curve. Pantheon comes down leveled, maybe has Spell Shield, Scout, things like that. Just game-ending keywords that can really help close out the game. I have found this deck to be very powerful, and it is very consistent with what I want to be doing. It is very good into Talia Ziggs. It is very good into mid-range decks like Jace Lux. It is decent into decks like Field Rush and Sentinels because of just how many spell shields we have. 2 copies of Bastion, a Camphor, even Pantheon technically could have spell shield. But I think what I found to be very annoying against a lot of control decks is just Yumi in the deck as well as Cataclysm. Yumi flips really easily if you're running 2 copies of Cataclysm, because Cataclysm can't really be stopped by a stun. It can, but not before I get the Yumi proc or the Yumi level up progress. And it can be used on stunned units to get them into combat as well. So it's very good to catch people off guard, and very good to apply both pressure as well as acting as a removal tool. So because Yumi is so good into these control decks, I am very happy running 2 copies of Cataclysm. I think overall the deck itself just makes a lot of sense. Now, where this deck does struggle a little bit more is into those fast aggro slash burn decks. I'm only on 2 guiding touches. I might bump to a third one, but I think overall the aggro matchups are pretty doomed, and that'll be relatively consistent with the rest of my lineups. But enough about Pantheon, let's move to the second deck. So the second deck that I will most likely be playing is Viego Shurima. Just like the Pantheon deck, it has very similar matchup tables to what I want to be doing. It is good, again, into a lot of the mid-range decks, because as a pseudo-ish mid-range deck, we really hit those power swings on turns 5, turn 7. It pretty much outgrows any other mid-range deck out there, very similar to Faded, because of the encroaching mist continuing to scale with every Viego kill, with every Hydravine summon. you get to that late game, your myths are 5/5, 7/7s, 10/10s. You can pretty much use them to block any sort of opposing attacker and just mitigate an attack completely. And then once Viego flips, it becomes a very big threat to the opponent. Now, I am on the Shurima version instead of the SI or the Ionia version, because I think overall this deck is abusing some really solid Shuriman tools. Quicksand, it's very hard to get rid of this card. Ancient Hourglass is probably cheating at 2 mana. I think this card is bonkers. A full 3 copy. It's basically a deny for 2 mana. Rite of Calling, able to consistently draw Viego. One issue in the Ionia list is if you don't draw your champions, then your deck really just durdles around without doing too much. And having the added consistency of the Shurima card, Rite of Calling, makes that a lot better. And of course, we're not even giving up the fact that we can run Rite Negation, which is our Sand Deny. Now, to be good in, or at least to have a better odd into Pantheon, we do have the 3 copies of Quicksand. We also have 3 copies of Vengeance as well, just to get rid of those pesky units. Compared with the Vile Feast, can pop spell shields. And yeah, we're good into control because we have the Ride Negation, we have the Viego, which is just an absolute engine at the very late game. There's really no other deck that can go as late as Viego, with the exception of maybe like a leveled Aesol, but if you can try to level an Aesol, I think the Viego is just going to slay your Aesol before then. So I found this deck to be quite good. It combines all the good aspects of Viego with the strongest protection tools from Shurima, and then still has some interaction for your back row, for the opponent's back row units, if you need be, with cards like Bakai's Sandspinner as well as Merciless Hunter. So overall, I think this deck is very powerful. I've made a recent video on it, and the ladder stats and meta stats show it as doing pretty well. I again think it has relatively few bad matchups, outside of maybe like triple mini morph or like aloof traveler decks. Um, Even into aggro, I think this deck would be banned, so that's not really an issue. I just don't really know what. It's hard to put the finger onto what bad matchups this deck has. Maybe like the Phalios decks, but we can figure those things out as we go. But I feel like this deck is very strong. It does well into Talia Ziggs, it does well into mid-range decks, and it does well into control. So just fitting along very beautifully with the rest of my game plan with Pantheon. And then the third deck to tie it together, or maybe you can say even the deck that I built my whole lineup around, it is Leona Yasuo. This is my pet and comfort deck. This is the deck that I promised to bring to seasonals. And here it is, finding its way into my lineup. And the reason, okay, there's 2 reasons why I am bringing this deck. The first one is I believe it does have good matchup tables. It is a little bit more polarizing into that, or it's a little bit worse into decks like the Jace Lux or the Ezreal Caitlyn deck, and it's a little bit worse into tempo oriented Shadow Isles decks because we just lack a little bit of removal for their champions. Recent change that I have made to the deck is opting for 1 copy of Sunburst over 1 copies of Heavens Aligned. I might even go for the 2nd copy of Sunburst just to have that bitty piece of removal that I really need against back row champions. I have also included a 3rd copy of Slaughter Priestess, acting as another way of finding Comet to get rid of those champions. But overall, this is the deck that I have the most experience on. This is the deck that I feel the most comfortable playing. And if I were to look back at every other seasonal leading up to this season, I think this is the best shot of Yasuo having to topping a 2nd seasonal tournament. After I topped the 1st seasonals with Yasuo Katarina, I thought what better time to pay homage to Yasuo and trying to top again seasonals again with him this time around. So that's pretty much that. I feel very confident into board-based mid-range decks because I have all of the Daybreak stuns. I have 2 copies of Deny. I have Twin Disciplines to protect my units, and I'm good into decks like Field Rush where I have Deny, I have Concussive Palm, I have Homecoming and Will of Ionia. It should be very solid into those matchups. But again, the weak side of this deck is into a triple aggro lineup. Just given the relative curve nature of Daybreak, going like 1, 2, 3, 4, aggro decks can just really take advantage of the fact and go wide. So realistically, you need to draw like a 1 drop and like 2 drops and like a 3 drop just to really have a chance, which honestly is pretty difficult with the deck. So I've been aggro plenty of times on ladder, but games are always really close. So hope for the best into there. Hope I don't even run into any aggro. But that's always been like my general plans of seasonals going into it. I just hope that no aggro player is lucky enough to run into me, and we'll see if it pays off. But that's just a general gist of my lineup. Again, Leona Yasuo, Viego, as well as the Yumi Pantheon deck all have very, very good matchups into most board-based control decks or mid-range decks, where Yumi Pantheon and Viego outscale it, and then Leona Yasuo can just completely stun lock my opponent, especially if my opponent doesn't know how to properly play around Daybreak or have seen this deck or Leona really in action. I'm hoping to catch a few people off guard and sort of gain some edge that way as well. I'm really feeling good into Field Rush, which is the most played deck of the season, or at least the recent meta. So hoping to run into a lot of those, hoping to beat finding a lot of Talia Ziggs, because I do think that will be in some of the most popular mid-range lineups. And yeah, just hoping to not run into any aggro. But that's pretty much the gist of my lineup. That's sort of what I'll be working on targeting. I want to avoid any aggro. And if you guys want to see how my run goes in the seasonals, I do have my Twitch link down below. I will be streaming it, potentially just streaming it with 0 delay. We'll see if that turns out to be a smart idea or not, but it's kind of interesting. You know, I'm in the middle of like tryharding because I have found a deck, or at least a lineup that I feel pretty confident in. But at the same time, I'm also playing Yasuo Leona, so I'm out here to have a little bit of fun. And if you guys want to catch me live, I will leave my Twitch link down below in the description, where seasonal Saturday, 1 p.m. EST starting, I believe. I stream with no delay, that should be a lot of fun. So hoping to see you guys there. And out for any of you who are planning on playing in seasonals as well, best of luck to you guys. Hope you guys are well prepared and well rested for seasonals come then. But feel free to share your lineup down below if you want some thoughts, or just reach out to me on Discord, things like that. And I'll try to help where I can. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys tomorrow for the seasonals. I will have another video out as well. But if I don't see you guys until later, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you guys for the next video. So peace out, guys, and take care.